All right, welcome to the weekly walk and talk. I'm going to start with something positive today because too many people are moaning and complaining that my videos are too negative. So some people ask, what happened, Neil, to the dog from last week's story? Did the dog survive who went over the cliff? And the answer is yes. That's what makes it a positive start to the video. The dog did survive. He was rescued by mountain rescue, so he survived. But let's move into now the negative stuff. Although it's negative, I know people get upset about it, but the reason I'm sharing this with you is because you're not going to get this information anywhere else. So some people are just sleepwalking at the moment. I was in a supermarket a couple of nights ago and I saw this guy and he came up to another couple. He obviously knew them. And by the way, it's super windy today. So hopefully the wind blocker is working because it's also raining right now. He went up to this other couple by the milk section and he said, "Oh, hey guys, how's it going? Did you see the news today? It was bad, wasn't it?" And I thought, oh, so my ears prick up. I go and listen in. I thought he was going to talk about inflation, food crisis, war. Nah, he talked about Brits banged up abroad. Now, if you're not British, let me translate that. Some British people were over in Spain or wherever it was, and they got locked up for misbehaving by the police. So apparently this was big news. Everyone was talking about it. So that was their big news. Good luck with that one. So let's move over to Sri Lanka at the moment then. And we're in Douglas today. I just had a client meeting. So I thought, well, let's just shoot this video now because it's probably going to rain. It's extremely windy. So I've got my hood if it gets too wet. So Sri Lanka, what is going on in Sri Lanka? Now that is what you call societal breakdown. Serious breakdown at the moment in Sri Lanka. That is really kicking off. And I want to read out what the media said was the reason for the breakdown. Here's the nonsense coming. Are you ready? So according to the mainstream media, this is the cause of the breakdown. Sri Lanka's economic crisis has come from not taking the COVID-19 pandemic seriously enough, with infection rates tearing through the tourism-based economy. So what was their vaccination rate, you may ask? Was it 5%, 10%, 15%? No. If you look at the WHO and some of the other online statistics websites, it was 90.6%, right? So what's that? That's 9.4% didn't get their double or triple shots. They are saying that's the reason for this societal breakdown. Nothing to do with the sovereign debt crisis, the fact that they did their organic farming policy, they cut out all the fertilizer, all the crop yields dropped. They then had to import food and grain. No, nothing to do with any of that. Nothing to do with the energy crisis, the debt defaults, the rolling blackouts, the corruption. No, it was all because 9.4% of people didn't get their shots. And this is the sort of nonsense that people believe. So what's going on then on the streets of Sri Lanka right now is pretty serious. You have got tear gas, you've got police. Oh, we've got a dog. You've got tear gas, you've got police, you've got military. People have been shot and killed. Hundreds, if not thousands now, protesters have been injured. It's all breaking down. Oh, who's this? Who's this little fella? Look at this guy. Oh, that was a nice dog. So what else has happened? Well, it's spreading, ladies and gents. I don't know how many times I can say this sort of stuff. And actually, some people think my forecasts are a bit extreme sometimes. This has actually happened much faster than even my forecast predicted. So it's pretty crazy how fast this is happening. And there's a lot going on with Pakistan, Iran. You've got Argentina now. There's about 4 or 5 other developing nations which are having food riots and massive riots and protests. And remember what I said about what happened in Sri Lanka? The people, these mobs, they are hunting, okay? What do people do when they hunt at the end of a hunt? That is what they're doing. They are hunting the rich at the moment. and it is pretty serious. Oh, this dog's back again. Look, here she comes. I love dogs, they're so funny. So yeah, they are going around and they are hunting in packs and mobs the rich right now. So it doesn't matter if you're a good person, you've done nothing wrong, then it doesn't make any difference at all. And again, I always say that Sri Lanka is the test case for, and not even Sri Lanka, I've talked about a lot history. You just need to look at history, look at the serfs revolt that I covered last week here, or earlier this week, Monday I think it was. You look at these things, they'll tell you how these things always end up. But what's happened in Pakistan, now that was Imran Khan, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but he was the leader, it was Imran Khan. He was a famous cricket player before he became the leader of Pakistan. So that's very controversial. I don't know the exact date, 9th, 10th of April, something like that. So it was over a month ago now. But he was actually ousted in a vote of no confidence. Now, if you read into that a little bit more, that's an interesting story, because he and his party, and he's got a lot of supporters, they are saying that it was the USA who committed election, you know what, they said the USA got involved and deliberately had him ousted in a vote of no confidence. Now, big accusation, that could be pretty serious and cause some serious consequences later on. So what you've got going on in Pakistan is food issues, food riots. Some items have gone up 100% in just 2 weeks. I mean, this is pretty serious. But it's not just Pakistan, and they're having rolling blackouts as well. Again, this is all the stuff, just watch back over my videos over this year and last year, where I talked about all the energy crises, about 7-8 months ago now. And that is playing out, I was going to say quite nicely, that's not the right word, because it's a horrible, horrible situation, but it is playing out not in a good way at all. But we're going to see this, and like I said, Europe, the West, we're probably going to see energy rationing, especially with all this ESG mandates, environmental social governance. In fact, Elon Musk just made a tweet, I think it was today or yesterday, and I think he's going to get himself in a lot of trouble. You know, these people that just disappear. Elon needs to be very, very careful with his tweets and what he's saying, because he's, you know, it's not like me. I don't have a huge audience compared to someone like him. Yeah, I think I've got 315,000 subscribers as of today, which is crazy because I only had 280,000 a month or two ago. But good. Anyway, welcome to all the new members. It's great to have you here, and I appreciate you. But Elon does need to be careful because he's exposing the stuff I've been exposing for 2 years. The difference is when I expose it, there isn't a big enough audience here to cause any upset and to really make a big impact on the world. But when he does it, he has got a big enough audience. And of course, he's exposing all the fake bots and things like that with Twitter and everything else. I think he's going to get himself in trouble very shortly. So this is what Elon tweeted. Exxon is rated top 10 best in the world for environment, social and governance, so ESG, by the S&P 500, while Tesla didn't make the list. ESG is a scam. It has been weaponized by phony social justice warriors, which is true. He's not saying anything that isn't correct there, but it's a lot more nefarious than he's even thinking or saying. Maybe he doesn't know the full picture like we know the full picture, but it's actually a lot darker than that. They haven't just hijacked it, these social justice warriors. It's been hijacked at a much, much higher and darker level than that, in that they are doing ESG and putting it on there. And again, I'll give you an example. Why did the oil companies pull out of Russia? Because they had pressure put on them by these higher powers, whatever you want to say, groups, to pull out of Russia. And how did they do it? They did it via the pension schemes. The pension schemes threatened to pull out because the pension schemes had pressure put on them. So if the pensions pulled out of some of these oil companies, the stock price would have crashed, and they don't want that. So that was one of the reasons. Well, the wind is really picking up now. Oh my goodness, crazy. But let's go back to food then and the riots. So we have Iran. I bet my hood is just blowing all over here. So we've got Iran now doing this digital ID. If you want your food, you know, with the food shortages and rationing, digital ID. Again, we talked about this more than a year and a half ago. It is all playing out now with this digital ID. Iran is a good test case. Now remember what we talked about when we did China. Unfortunately, because YouTube doesn't like that word when you do anything on China, that video just flopped. It got shadow banned, but it's a shame because that was a really good video that I made on China, an in-depth documentary. But never mind, let me give you a quick summary of that. So they have this social credit score, they have cameras everywhere, so they monitor you. Now there was this thing that came out that said every inch of China is covered by a camera. That's ridiculous, and it's not true. You think they've got cameras in the middle of paddy fields? No. It might be true for the big cities and built-up areas, but it's not true for everywhere in China. Let me just say that. But they do track you. Even when athletes for the Olympics went in, they knew who they were just from a tiny little, you know, thing of their eyes, like that much. They had masks and hats and everything. They tried to fool the system. It got them. Now, I think it's probably a gate-based system, which is that they measure, they're not necessarily looking at your face. I think they're also looking at your walk. So this technology has been around for a long time, but a lot of people just don't know about it. So they can see the way you walk and identify you. Now, the other negative thing about the social credit score, especially in China, is that if you don't have a good social credit score, you lose points and you'll get a higher interest rate. You can have, I mean, there's all sorts of stories like slower broadband, not access to the same kind of public transport, or you pay more. But I really do think that if we carry on the way we're going, we're going to end up in the same way. Here we go, here's the sea. Sorry it's not a beautiful blue sky today, but at least we don't have chemtrails over here. That's the good thing. At least we don't have chemtrails covering the sky. If you can't see the sun one day, it's because there's a storm coming through, which there is today. Argentina as well has social disorder at the moment. There's some levels of social breakdown. I think it was the Monsanto building that they was attacked. It was either last week, week before. It was attacked pretty seriously. Of course, I think it was Bayer that bought out Monsanto. Very evil company, Monsanto, very evil. But if you look at actually what happened and why these protesters attacked the building, it's because they finally sort of realized what's been going on. They realized what the Indian farmers realized a long time ago. It's not a good company. You don't want to get seeds and you don't want them producing your food. Let's just say like that. They're very hot on suing people for talking about them, so I won't say too much. Just look up, there's plenty of documentaries of this company, just terrible company. But yeah, this is going on in Argentina. You've got social unrest there. There's 7 or 8 countries now that you've got social unrest. And yet, in the West, people are still not preparing. They think it's all crazy and it's all, you know, just people, conspiracies, whatever. No one is preparing. And again, I've said this so many times. This is simply mathematics. It is numbers. There's no emotion behind it. If you don't plant crops, you don't have food. Okay, that's it. Simple as that. If you don't use fertilizer, your crop yield will drop. Simple as that. It's just a numbers game. And one other point I wanted to talk about is that a lot of countries now are bypassing the US dollar and they're doing trade outside of the dollar. So one country might say, I'll send you my oil and you send me your metal, for example. You know, we're seeing things like this. So we're seeing bypassing of the US dollar. This is heating up. There's a lot more contracts like this going on now for all of these countries bypassing the dollar. Also this week, Italy has said to the EU, European Union, hey, we're going to trade with Russia. We're going to buy from Russia and we're going to pay in rubles. And that's that. We don't care what you think. So I thought that was quite an interesting story that came out that they're doing that, because you've got to think 90% of Italian gas, that, you know, natural gas, comes from Russia. So it's not just as simple as cutting off all the natural gas like that. Although Germany says it is, but we'll see how that goes. I've already said I don't think it's going to work, what Germany's trying, so we'll have to see. All right, and finally, before I forget, thank you to everyone who corrected a mistake I made on Monday's video where I was talking about the serfs revolt. But before that, at the start, I mentioned the Black Plague, also known as the Black Death, where I meant to say it was the worst pandemic, but I was trying to get around using the word pandemic, and I said virus. But it wasn't a virus, it was indeed a bacteria. Thank you for picking that up. And yes, I did know that the Black Plague was a bacteria, so thank you for correcting that in the comments. All right, that is it for today. I hope you have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday or Tuesday, depending on the workload on Monday. But I'll see you next week. Take care, God bless, have a great weekend. See you soon. Look at that storm cloud.